わさびアニメすごいですね。
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth, that's right, number four, fourth episode of Convention Nerds. Lord knows that Ken didn't think we'd make it past two. Let's just be honest.
No,
So,
no
those
editing involved though, so it's a little bit easier.
True. For those of you just joining us or have never watched an episode before, Convention Nerds is our weekly show from Wasabi Anime, where we basically delve into the world of operating, running behind the scenes of pop culture conventions. Each week, we find a convention and find somebody from their key level of management or ownership and bring them on the show in order to drag them over the coals and make them relive the torturous hells and memories of running an actual convention. So my name is Tom Croom. I started an anime club in 2001 called Wasabi Anime in order to impress a girl. It worked out. We're married. And since then, it has become a company that is now internationally known. We do events in Canada. We also do them here in the United States. And we've had appearances as far as Japan and all the way in Europe. And on Thursdays, we sleep. I started going to anime conventions in the early 2000s. One of the first conventions I went to was in the year 2000, which I say that, and when I was growing up, that sounded like the future year 2000. Now it's the before time 2000, and during 2000, I went to JCon, the Japanese Animation Convention in Orlando, Florida, at the University of Central Florida, and that's where I met this guy, Ken Joey Snackpants Nabbe. So I'll let him talk.
Yes. Oh, yes, because Tom went to that convention, sat through the Transformers panel, and sat there and corrected us over and over and over again. So,
Yes.
Of course, when we get corrected, what do? We don't slap them down. We rope them in and make them press them into service to the event. And then, of course, Tom started helping the JCon team probably around 2004, 2003.
So 5 was the first anime musical, so right around 4.
Yeah, 4. And, we did that from 2000 to 2009, 10 years. Yes, more fun than a human's allowed to have. Single afternoon, got out when the going was good. So,
and if you want to say it and feel really old, it is a convention that ran for 10 years, over 10 years ago.
Yes.
So talk about running conventions forever. John, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your convention?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm John Holscher. I am the co-owner and co-chair of Matsuricon. Matsuricon is in Columbus, Ohio. We've been around since 2006. And like you, Tom, I've been going to cons forever. First con actually in 98. So I'm old. So I can totally relate. But
your first con was 98?
Yes, my first
You're a kid.
my first anime con was 98. I wasn't a kid in 98.
What was your first con?
First con was in 94 in Vancouver, British Columbia, a Star Trek convention.
Mine was 89, and it was also a Star Trek convention. And then Ken has me beat. Ken, when was yours?
Orlando Con, 84.
There you go.
Ooh. All right, I feel a little better.
That's why we that's why we have to take Advil before this, because we're sitting in the same position for so long in front of it.
You too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Matsuricon, not to be confused with Holiday Matsuri or Anime Matsuri,
Yes.
is because everybody jumped on that name because
Right.
it makes sense. It's a great name, and it sounds like you guys got the purest core name.
They're not in the same
great.
state, Tom. So they're all over the place. Makes things a little bit easier.
That's fair. So what year was the first Matsuricon?
First Matsuricon was actually in 2006. It was actually in April 2006.
Okay.
Now, when you started Matsuricon, were there any other conventions in Ohio at that point?
Yes, there were, because Matsuricon has a story that will be for you and me later. But basically, there was.
We want to hear as much of it as you can tell publicly.
Okay. So
the purpose, just the purpose of the conversation for this show is Ohio, for our viewers, suffers from the same problem that Ken and I have had to deal with in Florida, and exists in Texas and exists in the state of California. Those 4 states more than any other.
Southern California,
which is
more so, yeah.
A hypersaturation of conventions in a finite amount of space. Everybody has a con. At one point in Florida, we literally had one practically every weekend. And I understand that Ohio is in a similar circumstance. So 2006, you guys, or 2005, I'm assuming you guys were
Right.
starting Matsuricon.
Yeah, we started a con. To rewind a little bit, to give you a little bit of backstory, I also was one of the 7 people that helped create OhioCon. So
Okay.
I left OhioCon to create Matsuricon. It was just basically a mutual difference. Like, hey, I want to go on, do my own thing. And Matsuricon.
When did OhioCon start?
OhioCon started in 2001 in Cleveland.
Okay. Because that's one thing. It's like we talk about the number of conventions in Ohio, but when I start thinking of conventions in Ohio, every one I think of is in Columbus.
Right. Either, a lot of them are in Columbus because it's easy to get to Columbus, like everything.
But it's not the largest city in Ohio. I mean, I escaped the great state of Ohio about 2 years ago. So, I was trying to think. All we did is we did Cincinnati, we did Columbus, and we went to Cleveland once.
Yeah, I-71.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of time at Columbus because I was living in Waverly at the time. So just south of Chillicothe.
Right.
So it was either that or Cincinnati, maybe.
Right.
But I know Columbus is very centrally located. It's a great city to have stuff in, and it is the only city in Ohio that's growing. But is that why Columbus versus? I mean, is that we did it in Orlando because we lived there? John.
Well, to give you to basically kind of parting the veil a little bit, like what we were doing here. When, just to give an example, OhioCon moved to Columbus because at that time there was no event space big enough to handle OhioCon. It was getting so big that we had to move to Columbus right away. And the same thing, and since Matsuricon started Columbus, we were already living in Columbus. You know what? We're going to start here. We've had pitches to go to Cincinnati. We've had pitches to go to Cleveland. But when we actually look at the doc sheets, like, there's no way they can handle, like, we wouldn't even think about it. But it's just like, we're not going to go there. So it's just
space is that limited in Cleveland?
The space, well, they have a new area, but for the cost that you want to go, it's it's not worth it. Same thing with Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is also limited with time because I helped a show in Cincinnati and they had a lot of issues with after 6 o'clock. So a lot of places downtown started closing. You couldn't really do anything. So it wasn't feasible.
Yeah, we went to Cincinnati.
Let me back up here real quick. I want to gauge some data here real quick.
Sure.
Talking about there was a lack of space. What is the current size of Matsuricon, and what was the size of OhioCon when they opted to move?
The current size of Matsuricon is close to 8,000. So 8,000 unique bodies. Yeah. So when OhioCon moved, it was at nearly 4.
Okay.
When they moved to Columbus, and they didn't move to the con center the first year. They moved to the con center the second year they were in Columbus, because at that point they outgrew the location they were at. They were already doubling their numbers. It was unheard of.
Well, the kids love the anime in Ohio.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it was a fun time.
So you guys just opted to, you were in Ohio, you're in Columbus to begin with. You moved with the show, and then what was, when you opted to create Matsuricon versus continue with OhioCon, what was the ideological or conceptual difference that led you down that path?
I think partly was just, I think at the time it was just it's just a little bit of disagreement in the direction where we wanted the cons to go. At that point, I'm already in there for 5 years. We have other people in leadership that were in there, and rather than make it a fight or anything, let's like, you know what? There's enough space. Let's just go ahead and just do something a little different. We wanted to be more of an inclusionary environment where families can come in, bring their kids. They can actually grow up with our show, because a lot of times with Ohio, and it's nothing wrong with these kind of shows. It is catered towards college students. There's nothing wrong with them at all. I mean, I enjoy Ohio. So it's just a different demographic we want to hit. We wanted a different, also a different time of the year. At that point, it was spring. But the first time in the spring, you had Techo just started up. You had other cons that were starting in the spring, and it just got too congested. So we moved to August, and it worked after several years of clawing and digging and scraping. Because, oh man, they like, well, what about you on Labor Day?
Okay, as long as you're not going to Dragon Con.
Yeah, we were on Labor Day twice, I think. Yeah, early on, and we didn't get any numbers, so it was bad.
Well, it's we had one of the shows we ran for a number of years. Um, we moved it. We moved JCon near its end of its run to Memorial
Right.
Day weekend,
Mhm.
and that was a self-serving thing because 95% of JCon was operated by people with day jobs, and having Monday off of work made that easier. When we shut down JCon, we took a breather year, and that's when Wasabi Anime's company Green Mustard created Florida Anime Experience, and we just kept with the weekend.
Mhm.
And honestly, it was a great weekend for us, except that within about 4 years in, suddenly a lot of shows had grown to that weekend. You had Momo just north of us, and,
Right.
and
Yep.
then
Yeah.
Mega decided to come and step in. And at that point, it's just like, unless you're, 10,000, 20,000 strong, you actually feel the impact on a show.
Right.
So we had to opt to move. So Labor Day, yeah, I could see a couple of years of, because you have Dragon, and then what's the one out? There's a big one out west too. The same.
I think isn't PAX out there?
Yeah.
PAX Prime is out in West. So, but yeah, I mean, when we talk about cons in Ohio, usually it's the big three. It's us, it's Ohio, and it's Colossal. And a lot of
Mhm.
times, a lot of the Ohio anime fans just actually love the three cons. It's always Ohio Con in the winter. You start the summer with Colossal, you end the summer with Matsuricon, and a lot of the Ohio anime fans really enjoy that. So when we say, yeah, there's a lot of cons, there's a lot of small pop-up cons, a lot of cons that
Right.
are actually in colleges, either in Columbus or outside of Columbus. There's one in Akron area, there's some in Dayton, there's some in Cincinnati. I know there's I think a bigger-ish one in Cincinnati that someone I know runs, but a lot of them are kind of locally in Columbus, and then you have other big shows in Columbus as well that are
Yeah.
fan
So
oriented.
you have the non anime shows too,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
Wizard World. I think has a regular that happens in Columbus and
Yes.
sometimes
Hmm.
in Cincinnati or Cleveland. I know they pop up
They
all
all
over the
three,
place.
all three,
All three. Okay.
all three.
But
Proving
I
that
mean,
point.
and you guys are a college town that's not just the college. I mean,
Right.
Columbus is not defined by Ohio State. You know, oh how I hate, oh how I hate.
Hey, I'm about to be a Buckeye, so you know.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things about Columbus is it's not defined by uh, Ohio State. I mean,
Right, right.
it's very much you go to Tallahassee, it's defined by Florida State. There's nothing else to do.
Mhm.
You go to some of the other college towns like Gainesville, or even you go to Athens. There's just nothing that's there but the college. But
Mhm.
Columbus still being the state capital, but not the largest city in the state,
Right.
but still very, very large city with a very large and very vibrant campus on it as
Mhm.
inside of it as well. That's got to
Correct.
drive a lot of your attendees.
I think, yeah, it does drive a lot of our attendees. I mean, obviously, believe it or not, when we actually look at our data, a lot of
So
time we don't get a lot of people from Ohio State. A lot of times we just end up on move-in weekend. And
oh,
it
okay, yeah,
makes it
yeah, yeah.
rougher. They're like
Yeah.
saying you got to move out of you got to move out of that weekend. And we've tried so many times. It's just always the weekend we always end up on. But yeah, we still get a lot of people. We get a lot of high school students. We get a lot of people who are like taking a break from college. We get a lot of people from Indiana and Pennsylvania and Michigan. Those are like the three big states we get them. We also get some from Illinois and then some from New York and that sort of thing. But those three states we usually
Right,
get.
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times it's just easy. Again, it's just easy to get to Columbus. It's just
Oh yeah.
there's so many places, so many ways to get there.
I mean, you guys got to be within 8 hours driving distance to most of the
Oh
Eastern
yeah,
Seaboard. Yeah, I
exactly.
Yeah,
mean,
so you can
Yeah,
get there in a day if you're gonna do the road trip versus having to buy plane tickets.
right,
What
right. And I
don't you guys have an art college in Columbus too?
yes,
Like a
yeah, we
okay.
have Columbus College of Art and Design. It's also downtown. It's like maybe 6 blocks away from the con center.
Okay. So with this wide net of conventions, I mean, just looking at Columbus alone,
Yeah.
you have OhioCon,
Hmm.
you have Origins Game Fair, you have
Hmm.
Wizard World.
Hmm.
Those are just the four I
Colossal.
know.
Yeah,
Right.
John
Well,
mentioned
Colossal's
Colossal.
north.
Right.
Is it?
Colossal's
Okay.
in Sandusky. It's 2 hours
Okay.
north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandusky.
Yeah, that's the
Interesting.
go to Cedar Point
Well,
and then
yeah.
Yeah.
go to a water park.
Yeah.
So, what other in Columbus proper are there any other? So those are the four major ones I can think of. Are there any I'm forgetting that should be considered? medium to large show?
I'm trying to think if there's any medium to large shows. I mean, there was TrotCon, but that's more of a small show. No offense to them, they're a small, enjoyable show.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So,
where was
but
Maycon?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
if you don't know the shows,
sorry.
Yeah.
So this leads into my next question, though. Is
Yeah.
so you have 3 other shows that are in your city, and I'm assuming
Mhm.
you guys are decently spaced.
Right.
What is your relationship with, or what would you say the relationship is within those 4 shows? And before you answer, just to give you some backstory, in Florida, we had a number of shows, and depending on the year, you could have coordination or you could not. So, we'd have a show in West Florida that, hey, we'll work with you for a couple of years, decided not to any further. And then suddenly there were, legal issues with the owner. So nobody would cross promote with them anymore. Then
Mhm.
there was in Orlando when JCon started, a second show started at the same time.
Mhm.
And they were more in competition. And then afterwards with another show, you'd have some of them cross over and
Right.
and kind of cross promote. And then Daytona,
Mhm.
like I said, we're all over the place.
Mhm.
In Orlando, you have our largest one is MegaCon, and there wasn't a value for MegaCon to promote to the anime cons, but the anime cons to promote there, and
Right.
try to help each other out. So
Right.
within the Columbus ecosystem, you have those 4 shows. What's it like there? Or what would you say the climate of communications like?
I think it's mixed. Like I will say this, and again, it's not an offense to any of the cons. Wizworld, we have no relationship with them. We
Mhm.
have tried to establish a relationship with them, but I think it's just a matter of I think either people circulating in and out of that situation. Because I remember getting an email 2 weeks after the show happened, and that was so it happens. I've had that done with several shows.
We
Yeah.
own a convention in another market that has a Wizard
Mhm.
World, and I can confirm that action has happened with us where they've reached out, very excited to coordinate with us, have us come in and bring some of our content to their show in order to cross
Mhm.
promote. And
Mhm.
we said absolutely, we're in. Called and left a voicemail, sent an email, and then got the 2 weeks after email going, oh my god, we're so sorry we didn't get to you. So
Mhm.
that seems to be a common trend, unfortunately. So
Right. I think with Origins, it's we actually have a pretty good working relationship. We come in to see you guys. Actually set up a table there.
yeah,
We do some events. So
Yep.
it's
so
pretty
just
friendly.
disclaimer, corporate disclaimer. We are we are technically Green Mustard Entertainment Wasabi Anime are technically contracted by Origins Game Fair every year. So it's how John and I have actually worked directly together. Is
Right.
since we took over Wasabi Anime doing anime programming for them, we've opened the door to allow the Columbus cons to come in and try to push them to do as much as possible. Because
Mhm.
again, our attitude is, especially in those markets, challenges aside of when communication, if the tide rises, we all float if we can do this effectively, and as long as we're not in direct competition. Which
Oh, exactly.
tabletop and anime, obviously.
Yeah, I
aren't
mean, Origins
direct.
is such a niche show. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not gaming, I don't know.
I don't know why
Yes,
you're
we
there.
do run some anime shows, but no one's going to Origins just for anime.
No, they're no, they're not. No, they're not. No, definitely not. But yeah, I think it's actually been beneficial for us to actually be at Origin because then it's like, oh, I haven't heard of this show. Oh, it's right here. You go, it's right here. No, exactly right here. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, so that
Right.
actually helps. OhioCon, we've actually had a good established relationship with them. They come to our show. We go to their show. So usually communication's always working, but always sometimes there's always a hiccup because we're communicating, they're communicating with us when we're in our busy season, we're communicating with them when they're in the busy season. So it just always happens to work
Right.
that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, but those
yes, and again, you brought up a great point about anime shows coming to non-anime events. Prior to Origins, we've worked with Gen Con for over 10 years.
Mhm.
And what we've learned is kind of what you described because we work with local shows in those regions. There it's Anime Crossroads and have them set up every year.
Mhm.
And what it is pure analog gaming shows tend to skew to an older demographic,
Right.
but that means that demographic brings their kids.
Right.
And
Yes,
the kids are the ones
yes.
that come find and go, oh, you're anime. And then you get to go, there's an anime con in this town. There's an anime con in this town. And it's we use the term a lot in our business sector. It's cross pollination.
Mhm.
It's we
Mhm.
found the fans of
Yeah.
one. Now let's open the buffet to find the fans of the other in order to try to both grow. So it's really
Right.
great because
Right.
again, in retrospect, you have two kind of dominant anime events in one city that are taking different parts of the year, but then you have a decent sized multi-genre and a decent sized analog. I'm surprised, actually, coming to say this and thinking about it, and even thinking about that region, there's no dedicated or larger scale dedicated video game event in Columbus, is there?
There was.
Oh,
That
okay.
there was, but it because I think there was a thing called Raj the Garage that it took place in December, and it's been going on for the last several years. But the owner of that decided to say, okay, he's having some life changes and he's pretty much done. So unfortunately, all that has ended. And for a full disclaimer, that is the head of Tokyo Attack. So he ran that show, and yeah, so he pretty much has gotten out of the business. So there is no more Raj at the Garage. There's no video game event anymore.
Now,
yeah, I saw Tokyo Attack shut down. So.
You're talking about winter events. I mean, the one time that we had planned on going to OhioCon was we got everything together. We planned for the weekend. And there was 3 inches of snow. Plan an event after Labor Day and before March 20th. How do you look at doing that in a state in which Tom doesn't have to worry about it? It snows, and you've got to deal with that white stuff that people have to drive through or get through or name.
Now, I will, John, before you feel too overwhelmed, understand the part that Ken is leaving out is that in Florida, that window of time that we're talking about affects us with, oh God, will there be a hurricane? Yes. And for 10 years, J-Con dodged that bullet beautifully.
Well, we did in June. We were never in hurricane. I mean, we had a few weeks. We specifically made sure we were done before hurricane season really kicked in. And it only rained out of the 10 years of J-Con. It rained only 2 of those years. So. And that year was a monsoon.
Oh man, this will probably show like how young I was in the event planning process. When we were planning OhioCon, we didn't think about it.
Oh,
we're like, well, if it snows, it snows.
That's the problem. That's you solve the problem when it happens, sort of situation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, it snows. Well, people can stay at my house, whatever. So that's how
everybody look. The storm's coming. Everybody get in. The worst one I've experienced. I was in a bona fide blizzard in Calgary, Alberta, for Calgary Expo, and we were literally like, it got to, like, I've been in bad rainstorms, but I couldn't tell you the last time I was in a blizzard growing up. But power was flickering in our hotel. We had to, when I called the Uber to come pick us up, because normally we were walking to the hotel. It's that bad. Coming from Florida, it wasn't something I was really equipped for. I mean, I had some warm clothes I'd packed, but just not being adept to okay, how do I solve this problem of in and out? And luckily for that city, Alberta, it's way north, is completely used to, this is normal for them. So in Ohio, when you guys have weather issues like that, Floridians will come out in the rain because we're used to the rain versus the easiest analogy is if you go to Walt Disney World in the middle of the rain, people will still show up at Walt Disney World. If it rains at Disneyland in California, it's a ghost town because Californians can't handle that. So in Ohio, what are your locals like when you have that sort of a weather, like the snow suddenly impacts or it happens? Do you see a bump, an impact on your numbers, or is that just something that it's normal for you guys?
I can't speak for OhioCon now. The one year that it actually happened, there wasn't necessarily a bump. It was just more or less, okay, we're staying an extra day. We didn't really notice anything. I know early on when I was there, we didn't really keep track of metrics too much. And that's just, again, we were young. We were just, getting our feet wet with this whole event thing. Oh, we're just going to make a con. We're going to just have a party for 3 days. It's not a serious business. So
what about, did you have guests that year? Like getting the guests out?
Yeah, we did have guests. I remember some of the guests had to stay. They were amazed at snow because a lot of them were from Texas.
Yeah.
So like, snow. So that was, so I remember that story. So they were amazed at snow. I remember that year we didn't have any Japanese guests, so can't recall that one.
Now you said, hey, type of business. Now, John, is this your full-time job, or is this a part-time job for you? Yeah, you got a day job like some of us do.
I do have a day job. For a while there, I didn't have a day job. I was basically freelance. I mean, full disclosure, I basically am a QA analyst.
Okay.
So I do the computer things. So that's kind of what I do on the side with Matsuricon. So yeah, so that's kind of what I do.
Now we're all quiet. I was like,
Yeah,
maybe
we're all,
Ken will
it's
take
all,
the next one.
it's all
Okay.
awkward now.
Yes, Ken always brings that up just to yes, this is my full-time job because I found a hobby.
I wish it was. I would. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't realize that it's not our full-time job. That was like,
and I try to explain to people all the time about when they go, they're surprised. They're like, this is your job. I'm like, it is, but you have to understand that in the pop culture event circuit, I'm 1% of 1% when it comes to the full operation. A large number of shows are NPOs, or even if they are for profit, they're doing the in-kind compensation package as a volunteer, depending on state to state regulations. Right. But doing this as an actual career, as Ken pointed out, this is using Matsuricon as a good example. You're one show. If Green Mustard Entertainment Wasabi Anime had one convention, we'd have to be 100,000 person show to justify, sustaining more than one full-time position.
Exactly.
We operate because we're multiple contracts. We do multiple shows. We have multiple business facets in order to sustain the operation that way. But yeah, no, it is a rarity. And I think Ken's at some point during one of these shows, you'll find somebody who goes, well, yes, I unfortunately have to sit in an office all day and deal with weebs, because he knows that's what I have to do all day, every day, Monday through Friday, except for weekends when I, deal with Floridian drivers, which is almost as bad.
Yeah, and I think you understand this on some level, Tom. Like, and I also volunteer for other shows as well. So, because I still you have a passion for it and you love it. So you go out and when someone says, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Like, sure, I'll help you with this. And then all of a sudden, you're like, "Why am I in this position at this con?"
Yeah, you're better man than me, John. I tried volunteering for other shows. I couldn't do it.
I only volunteer for one other show. That's it. That is it.
Yeah, I think we get to a certain point of experience with doing stuff with the show, you have an expectation of what is going to happen when you're involved with the show, because you're used to your own experiences with the show. And to get back to the old thing, at our age, it takes a lot for us to get involved with something. So
I can say that now. Oh man.
It's all how much something costs and what your time's worth. When you get married, you have kids, you have a job, you deal with all that stuff versus, when we started JCon in 2000, I was 20 something, and now, I don't have that time to volunteer.
You're not 20 something?
Yeah, I'm not 20 something.
You're not 30 something?
Yeah. My hair was a whole lot darker back then too, Tom.
Yes. It's a look how great we look in the artwork from 7 years ago in the bottom corner. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thin, young, and drinking heavy, and that was less than a decade ago.
Yeah.
But so OhioCon, if you were going to explain to somebody like why OhioCon, what do you think is the charm or the passion that should draw people to your show?
No.
No. I'm not on OhioCon. I can't speak for them.
You got your cons confused.
Oh, sorry, Matsuricon.
Yeah,
we've been blurring those two back and forth. Wow.
Yeah. Well, John was nice enough to talk about his time there, and it is the other show.
Well, no, but that's a good defining question. What draws people? Like, give me the passion plea for Matsuricon, and then after you give the passion plea, you said you understand and do both. What is it that they have that you don't, and vice versa, that separates you to create the two options?
I think for us, for Matsuricon, the biggest thing we like doing, we want to make it more of basically like a fan show. We want to bring out people that you want to see. We want to bring out guests you want to see. We want to do things that you want to do. Right. We want to have people involved. And I think that's one of the passions. And also the one other thing that's a big passion for me is the charity that we do, because reason why I go to the other cons, I go collect signatures on rare items, and we auction them off, and we make it a big deal, and we tell people, hey, this is probably going to be the only place you're going to find this item. This is the only place you're going to find a book that has a signature from the cast of One Piece and Nobuo Uematsu and Shoji Kawamori in one place. So I feel I always hype up our charity, and that's why I wear this.
Well, what's the charity?
The charity actually is it's a cancer charity. It's called Pelotonia. They're a bike ride that goes to the OSU James Cancer Hospital. We actually partner with them. This is the arrow, and it's a very personal thing for me because that's where I was operated at. So I will always donate to them. I will put whatever time I can towards them. So it is actually a very passionate thing for me to do.
It's very popular in Ohio, Tom. I mean, my short time in the state, and I used to have spent a lot of time up in the Etna industry area. You a lot of different groups supporting that charity. Now, and you choose the same charity every year, John?
We don't rotate? Yeah, we do not rotate. We make it a point that we work with Pelotonia, and they have actually partnered more and more with us. They want to help us raise even more money, so we are happy to have this partnership with them.
Okay, so it's to summarize, it's the passion. Matsuricon is targeting what they feel fans want and the passion for fandom itself,
right?
And then the uniqueness of opportunities that you guys can create via your charity presentation and things like that.
Right. Yeah, and I think the one thing I didn't mention is something I try to mention to everyone. It's kind of like, yeah, we're kind of getting bigger, but I feel that also you can actually come in and sit down and talk with people. We're a middle-sized show, and you're not going to have the big con feel. You can always come and sit down, but I'm not going to be able to use that in another couple of years because we're going to hit 10,000. I can't say that anymore because now we're going to be a big boy.
Well, you know what? The definition you're giving, though, is a very good definition for the city itself. The first time I went to Columbus, years ago when we were first exploring working with Origins Game Fair, they flew me out there and we did a tour and meetings and talked about it. And the CEO at the time had a really great description, which is like, so what did you think of Columbus after, a couple days in the city? I was like, it's a cute city. He goes, yeah, it's the biggest suburb you'll ever walk around. And it's that, it's a big city, and you have the city elements, but it really is a more intimate feel of a community versus, hey, I'm in New York City or Toronto or something like that.
Right.
So it makes sense that a show like yours, and even at 10,000 people, I think you'll honestly retain that. Origins is bigger than that, and walking around that show, do you still have that same feeling of this is a lot of people, but they're all constantly meshing and you're running into each other a lot. So if that's that, then again, just to go back to OhioCon again. So I'm coming to you for the passion, and you said, and again, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. You guys are targeting more of the family-friendly theme park aspect of the operation. So OhioCon's probably tapping into the college age 18 plus demographic.
Right. That would be kind of accurate. I know they do have some family stuff, but I know they're targeting basically college. They're basically targeting those late high school students, college students want to get in there, just have a fun time, a fun weekend, get out of the cold, party with us.
Now, if you had to compare party cons and we had to put Colossal Con versus OhioCon.
Ooh, that's a honest. Colossal's gonna win. Period.
Ken, are you familiar with Colossal Con?
No, it's the first time I ever heard Colossal Con.
Oh,
even when I lived in Ohio, I didn't hear about Colossal Con. So
it's imagine going to a summer anime con in a water park, and all the cosplayers think it's bikini season.
Interesting.
That's kind of Colossal Con, and I believe they're expanding. They're doing a second one in Texas next, if I remember.
It's a third one. They do one. Yeah, they do one in the Poconos.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. So, and it got its reputation and its growth. It's one of those. It is a kind of like a Dragon Con. It's a party con. If you've gone,
it definitely is a party con. It definitely is. And if that's what you're looking for, definitely it's a place to go.
But then, and again, and that goes back to the success of your show and kind of your ecosystem. Bring it back to your state, which is
right.
You have, oh my God, party con, which is Colossal-Con.
Mm-hmm.
You have, hey, here's my older demographic over at Ohio-Con.
Mhm.
You know, I want to go to some parties and skew that way.
Yeah.
And then you guys are, you know, family friendly. You're attracting your dedicated fans and your families to come spend the weekend together. So
Right.
it's kind of nice because you're in a region where it's because I mean, you know, just to be frank about Florida, that was our biggest problem. We used to make fun of at one point there was a startup company that was doing ticketing and building cons, and they're all going to be different, every single one, and they all have the exact same web-based platform. So it's like change the skin, but it's all the same setup and same thing. And the ones that really got us were but what makes us different from your con is we're doing it for the fans. And it was always so nobody else is doing it for the fans. You were the first people to do this, and the people who started the other shows didn't. So
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, everybody was
Okay,
doing it for
sir.
the fans. So that's
Okay, sir.
like if you have to give trigger terms to us, it's
For the fans.
first annual
First
for the
annual.
fan. We should make a list of these. First annual event for the fans. You know, things that are a pet peeve
For the
when we see
children, Tom.
conventions.
It's for the
For
children.
the children. It's
the
always
children.
for the
It's
children.
for the kids. It's for the kids. Always for the kids.
Now, John, at the tail end of, after I'd reached age 30,
Mhm.
so many years ago,
Mhm.
I started, and JCon starts switching from that, hey, let's, how much can we drink, to, oh, look, we're now bringing families to the event. I used to always make a point of finding that poor dad that was stuck on the bench outside of main events and talk to them to try to see how they were doing, to see if there was anything I could do to
Mhm.
make it more enjoyable for that poor parent that got dragged into the event by their child. Because
Mhm.
I knew that I wasn't making any money if the kid didn't go. So I need to make the parent go as well. You
Right.
see yourself reaching out at that type of thing as you start scaling your event.
Have you done parent passes, anything like that?
Yeah, we usually, actually what we end up doing, we actually do child passes. So if the parents want to so we usually, if the parents go, then the child can get in. It's like under 12, the child gets in free. And usually for us, it's like saying, hey, you're coming there with your kid, you can be there with your kid as they actually see things.
We did the other way. We charged full price for the kid,
Mm-hmm.
and we discounted the parent because the kid was getting more out of it than the parent was.
We've noticed though that the parents get just as much as the kid out, and they just want to bring their kid. But usually the kid is under 12. So at that
point, under 16.
Yeah,
you could have a parent pass for every 3 standard passes that you buy. And that was just basically that's how many would fit in a car.
Right.
And I'd see a line of them, of the parents in the lobby, or I'd see them in the lobby area in front of the convention space, because it's like, okay, I'm here. And they also made it so the parents would come, so we didn't become a babysitting service.
Right. We also that's kind of the thing too. But we also made the child pass different, so we knew, okay, that's a child, and then we also have something that I pair it with the parents, so we know, okay, parent the child. So.
Well, and that's when we did if the 2000s were our first gen show learning curve, when JCon and shows like that, we got to the 2010s, and at that point we have like Wasabi Con, Fandom PDX, and Florida Anime. We kind of went with the simplistic approach of, Ken's argument is right and your argument is right, which is, hey, the kids are getting more out of it. No, the parents are getting more out of it. And we just went, cool. There's no kid pass. There's no adult pass. There's one ticket price.
Yeah.
Buy your pass. Because, the approach was, if we're doing a well-balanced show, in our opinion, then we are catering to everyone on some level. And we just created a simplistic buy your pass, come to the show. I don't want to go. Well, then don't go. I got to be there for my kid. I'm like, well, that's you being a responsible adult. You can't not take them to the rated R movie without you there. So, of course. Now, pivoting here real quick. So, we've talked about your show. We talked about the region. We talked about all the shows in the region.
Right.
COVID-19.
Oh,
right.
How did that get you guys, and how did you guys pivot from there?
Well, it actually caught us a little bit off guard at first, because we were thinking, okay, we're in the summer, we're just going to kind of watch it, we're going to see what happens. Because initial reports out, okay, it's a lot of things we can in the spring, it'll open up in the summer. So okay, we're just going to operate the way it's operate. Then the biggest indicator for us was when Otakon went down, because Otakon was 2 weeks before us. When disclaimer, I work for Otakon, so I knew when it was happening. So it was like, okay, this is what's going on. So it's kind of like, okay, this is something we have to take seriously. At that point, we had to talk with funny story. Hyatt was ready to say, yeah, we're good. Connor's like, hey, you ready to have the con? Like, so we actually Nicole, my co-chair, she actually deals with more of the contracts with the hotel and with the con center. She reached out with the city, and the city, like within 24 hours, the city got to the con center. Con's like, yeah, we're just gonna remove you from the contract.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so
nice.
it was really nice. We were able to basically amend everything, just put it to 21, and then we pivoted. We had a team that actually did the online portion of our show, so I thought that actually went off pretty well for everything considered with the technology things we had.
Well, we just did a straightforward Twitch stream for one of our shows we canceled last weekend, which was WasabiCon. So how did you guys do? What elements or what services did you use to present your events elements virtually?
Well, actually, our publications director actually had a really good idea, since we were kind of lacking with some of our online streams, YouTube and Facebook and that sort of thing. We decided to actually pre-tape a lot of our events.
Okay.
So we actually were uploading a bunch of them on YouTube, so we would have content, and we would trigger them at certain times so people can go watch them. We also had some live events that we would put on Twitch. So gaming had some stuff live going on one of the Twitch channels. We also have charity actually do their lives. They had a live stream going on at the same time, and that was constantly going. So basically we had 3 different avenues that you actually could do throughout the course of the weekend.
Okay. So it was like San Diego Comic-Con did that, which was, hey, here's our pre-recorded panel. It'll go live at this time. So you did that. Then you had gaming on Twitch, and then where did you deliver the third piece?
We also delivered on Twitch. Our charity stream was also on Twitch.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
we've learned to embrace Twitch thanks to our partners over at Gen Con, who kind of pushed us into it. They've actually been doing it for 3 years at Gen Con in the building that we're in, which is a Weston. We take over the bottom floor, and the floor above us for the past couple of years is, hey, here's the whole streaming room. We're streaming from Twitch. And for the past 3 years prior to the pandemic, they're like, you should come upstairs and do something with that. And we're like, yeah, no, whatever. And then suddenly it was like, oh, now we're going to learn everything that you guys learned in 2 years. So because it's a necessity. So
yeah, and I have to really give a shout out to my charity head Jackie for actually pulling everything together for the charity part of the stream. We raised over $1,000 during the course of the weekend. So they did a really good job. So I was really happy and really fortunate. And our publications director Dusty for actually bringing together people to actually make the online portion of the con happen. So they did a really good job.
So what do you think it's going to happen for 2021?
Well, we are going as if we're going.
What are your dates for 2021?
Dates for 2021 is I have to actually bring up the calendar because I have another con in my head. So hold on a second here, because I have.
That's okay. I've made that mistake once this stream too.
Yeah, so we are actually going to be the 20th to 22nd of August 2021. So yeah, so we're in mid
summer.
Yeah, we're around the summer, so like later summer. It's like we didn't want to be that late, but it just works. I predict basically that I'll have one con in there's Otacon's the first weekend, and then the Peloton Bike Rides next weekend, and then I'll go to Matsuricon. So I'll be in con hell. It's fine. Okay. This is fine.
And that's late enough in the year. I think our first commitment is March or April next year. So obviously, everybody's looking at that. Our wholly owned show, we own one. We're going to be Memorial Day next year. And I'm already nervous about those. I have no problem saying that publicly. It's getting into the summer. Yeah, I think is where we're going to see, because July is where the big dogs are. So what is Anime Expo going to happen again? Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con going to happen.
I mean, and not just, talking pop culture, not just anime. I mean, what is AX going to do? What's Gen Con going to do? What's San Diego going to do? I mean, what are the big boys going to do in the industry?
Well, this weekend was supposed to be New York Comic Con. So
yeah, there's another one. I mean, they've been shut down by the fire marshal for attendance before. So when you start looking at how are the big shows going to operate, how long, how many years can you can you push it off?
Yeah,
How many are going to survive?
And to not, I mean, I promised people I wouldn't talk too much about Otakon, but I wanted to bring this up just because it's kind of a unique advantage I have since I work for both shows. I get to see how they operate and how they actually conduct themselves through this time. So I took some of the cues they did for their Otakon Online, implemented into our show. So I was very grateful to actually see some of the behind the scenes for that. And so right now we're going to kind of pay attention, not only to them, but to AX, see how they behave, what they're going to do. And we also have some plans that we want to do also. Okay, so we're going to go live. What are we going to do with PPE stuff? How are we going to space out things? What's going to be the certain health codes, so that's stuff we have to pay attention to if we go live, because I don't think they're going to be as lenient. That's my clue. Go ahead.
Let me focus in on Ken's question then. He says, what do you think about 2021? Let me take it to a little more minutia here. Do you think you'll be operating normally, or do you think it'll be a different operation when you do come to run the show in 2021?
I think it's going to be a very different operation. I think we're going to see a hit with attendance, because people are not going to come out. People are not going to want to go. We're going to have a lot. We're going to have a lot of regulation on it. So I think we're just going to have to be prepared to do a lot of different things on the fly. We're going to have to be very resourceful with what we have. Not even with just guests, with just supplies that we have, with staff, with hotels, with everything. So I think we're gonna really test our creativity.
Now, is your governor up for re-election this cycle?
No, he's not.
Okay, no. I mean, politics figures into.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
yes, it does.
Our show. So
it helps when your mayor and your governor get along. Unlike some states.
Yeah.
So Georgia.
Since we're cracking that door open, you talked about your challenges you had with whether or not to cancel or forego Matsuricon. We thought we were going to be fine because WasabiCon, one of the shows we own in Jacksonville, Florida, is in October. It was just this past weekend. It was when it was supposed to happen. And so when I had the initial conversation back in April, just proactively, it was a lot of, it's okay. Let's talk about a plan, but nobody's going to act the plan. And as we got closer, it became frustrating because we were in a position to go, let's just go ahead and call it now. And the challenge we ran into is the Republican National Convention had moved themselves to Jacksonville, Florida. And so any conversation we were having with the local city and our convention center were, hey, listen, we're thinking about RNC's coming.
Yeah, the RNC's coming. If they can come, you can do it.
And it was complicated more by the fact that I went out and saw firsthand and covered it. We actually had a pop culture show that had delayed from their spring dates to the summer. Go forward, and they're usually a couple thousand person show, and they were in the hundreds. But they had tried their hand at, hey, social distancing show. And so it was, hey, you had a show this summer, I said, with a few hundred people. And they said, and the RNC. And we literally kind of were sitting there waiting. And the day the RNC canceled, I think it was on a Friday, that Monday, everything was already in motion. And that's what, Ken has a good point. The local politics, and that's why, that was part of the drive of when we started discussing creating this podcast, is every show has its own unique ecosystem of circumstances. And, Georgia has problems that Florida doesn't have, and California has different ones. And, we're talking to you, and Ohio does.
Right.
And the long-term goal, you brought up another thing that, you said you weren't going to talk much about, but, I think it's a credit to you and it's a credit to people who do this, which is, hey, I work with a couple of shows, and you'd be stupid not to take advantage of the shared knowledge and data you get in that circumstance. Like, hey, Otakon is looking at ABC. Otakon knows how to they do a great show. What should we look to, beg, borrow, and steal? The bad paraphrase Steve Jobs, Pablo Picasso, good artists create, great artists steal. We've done the same thing all year. We work with Informa Pop Culture, which is all of the Fan Expo shows, the MegaCon shows, and Gen Con, and Origins Game Fair, and our own shows. And then even the ones we don't work with, that we have close partnerships with. It's an ongoing conversation of, what the hell are we going to do? But it sounds like, credit to you and your team, and even to, the shows in your city of the, hey, we all know it's changing. How are we handling it? And then, making sure you're staying, and, and it kind of brings me back to a question, which is, do you think there was a benefit of doing a virtual component for your show when it didn't happen?
I think there was for this year because people were starving to go to the anime show. They wanted to go to anime. They wanted to interact with people in that space. And I
Mhm.
think it was a good holdover. I personally believe that it may not last like maybe another year or two virtual shows. I think you need to have the real show. I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to replace it. So we may have another year of them, but people are going to get real antsy, and people are going to be like, we don't know if we can do virtual shows because
Well,
yeah,
I've said the Japan Times, I've said in other interviews, and I've been very public on my stance. I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as a virtual convention.
mhm,
Until we get to Ernie Klein's Oasis, that we're all wearing suits with full 3D immersion. What we're actually presenting are virtual presentations of elements of our convention. So we've
correct,
kind of treated it
correct,
as it's
correct.
a it's 50% advertising and 50% community engagement. And
Mhm.
some people have been trying to solve the monetization piece of it. Can there be money made? Yeah. Is it the
All right.
same money as making you do to run a convention? Oh, hell no. But
No,
we have to stay connected with our fans, and just like you said, in order to keep this going. So
yeah.
if you have to, do you foresee or do you fear a degradation of brand if you're forced to do a virtual element 2 years in a row?
I th- I fear there will be some kind of detriment or as you would say a degradation of the brand because I think people are not going to know what is going on. They're gonna be like,
Right.
oh, I think people crave that in person contact because
Absolutely.
going back to what I believe with shows like going when I went to a show I was kind of the outcast, and this is the society of outcasts that you have basically made your family with in a way. I mean,
Hmm.
cons are like that anymore. They're still kind of like that,
Right.
and people want that environment. The virtual, I feel like a virtual con is just kind of the holdover for
Hmm.
that to come back. People are waiting for them to come back, but if it's going to be like this all the time, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, now I've effectively turned our entire interview into a downer. Good job, Tom. Um,
Well, it's one of those things. It's like yeah, the virtual thing has killed certain types of gatherings. I mean, the
Yes.
yeah.
class reunion is now dead because of Facebook. I
Mhm.
mean, I haven't seen anybody really clamor for any type of reunion since 2008.
Because we all
Um,
know what our
oh
classmates have
yeah,
been up to
what
now.
was
Yeah.
yeah, what was the thing what was everybody doing? Oh well, there it is on the damn wall. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
The anime con, the pop culture convention still needs that piece, that
Right.
interaction, the talking to the guests. Yes, seeing the
Yes.
talking heads in a virtual event, that's nice and all, but there is a piece of waiting in line for 4 hours to get in to see Shatner and Nimoy speak in a room with 6,000 other people. There's still something to that. There's still
It's
that
the
that
it's
whole
the
John used the
experience.
word. John hit the word which nails it, I think, and it's inclusion. And that's
right.
what pop culture events have been about. Is historically, if you're going to a pop culture con, you're not the mainstream person. You're not the hey, I'm Go Sports, or I'm not
Yeah.
whatever is considered the standardization of something. Niche market conventions, anime cons, book cons, comic cons, stuff like that started from the concept of hey, I can go somewhere.
Right.
1989, when I went to my first Star Trek convention, it was maybe 1,000 people and George Takei. And it was
Right.
because in high school, when I was in high school, you knew who liked Star Trek because you were that specific group of nerds. But then you suddenly stepped outside of your own circle, which is what most people live in.
Right.
It's here's my D&D group, or here's my whatever group. You went to a con, and it's John's word. It's inclusion of now suddenly I'm part of something bigger. And
Mhm.
it has to be we have online gaming, we have online chat. We grew up through the age of AOL Instant Messenger to connect in chat rooms and things like that. And now it's video chat with technology. But there is an element, I think, that's being lost that is going to go back. So, here's my optimistic piece to this whole discussion is I think we're crimping the hose. And I've said that a lot of times too, which is once we solve what we need to solve, be it how to run the physical event safely or it becomes safe to run a physical event. I think that the fans who miss those memories and have gotten used to having those moments of inclusion every single year are just sitting there waiting in state.
I think so.
And I think we're going to uncrimp that hose.
Yeah.
And, John was worried about, hey, we're an 8,000 person intimate show. I want to be the optimist, say, hey, that's when we get the world of comfort back, the shows that have, weathered this storm
Right.
are going to have such an amazing, because at that point, going back to Ken's other analogy of, we don't go to high school reunions anymore because we have Facebook. We know what the hell's going on. Well, we don't go to cons right now because we want to. And I think the moment that we can again, it's going to be a reunion party,
Oh, it's going to be a huge party.
One of the things I've noticed with this whole COVID piece is that how much of our mindset, just as an entire American society, has been built around the mega event, be it football, be it sports, be it
concerts,
conventions, concerts, everything. It's like, how well is OSU doing without having, games Columbus is going to be hurting not having a game on Saturday in the fall. There's a lot of things that were driven by, there's South Bend's not doing real well
parking,
because of,
right.
There are games that it's only students and family. That's it. No one's coming into town. And a lot of these towns dealt with these huge mega events, and those mega events don't exist any longer. And once they, Tom's right, once they uncrypt the host, it should be interesting exactly how crazy it's going to be. Are we going to see an AX sellout? Are we going to see? I remember we were at AX. That was almost 10 years ago, Tom, and that was
13,
quarter million people, and I was done.
Well, here's the other note that here's my prediction I'm going to throw out there. We are going to see sellouts, but it's going to be a combination of reasons for the sellouts, which is uncrimping the hose. And then Ken and I have already talked about this for years. What we've wanted, now we're getting it in the worst possible way, is I want to have an ideal, here's my sellout number, build my budget knowing I'm going to hit that sellout number.
Right.
And I think we're going to have to shrink back our expectation of how many people can we shove into there.
Right.
It's how many people can we safely operate within. And once we have that number, especially if you were above that number to begin with, it's just shifting numbers to match everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, if you're an 8,000 person show in Columbus, it's go to 5,000, be the intimate show, but then adjust all your numbers to accommodate it.
Oh, exactly.
You're going to have such passionate fans that are going to come back to your show.
Exactly.
I've never been, we've talked about at some point I'll pop up there to see it, but the way I've known you for years, whenever you talk about the show with the passion that you do, and then I talk to people to go, I love seeing people who are passionate about the brand of their show, which means that their show is passionate for their attendees, if that makes sense.
Right.
So,
right.
But we did get yelled at in our ear. Nobody else can hear that we're down to our last couple minutes. So John, wrap us up with an amazing shameless plug for Matsuricon 2021, dates, info, and when everybody should come see you next year.
Oh, man, you should actually see us. Matsuricon.org is our email address. Check us out on Twitter. Yep, right there. And we're actually doing some housekeeping. So it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice and new when we actually get done. Twitter is at Matsuricon. You can find us on Facebook at Matsuricon, Instagram at Matsuricon. You sensing a theme here? Ooh, yeah. Ooh.
I'm waiting to watch your dance videos on TikTok.
Mech sale on merch sale.
August 20th to 22nd of 2021. We're moving the theme, which was basically a sports theme. We're just moving it to 2020. So it's still going to be a sports theme. Yeah. So we're going to make do with that as best we can.
Okay. Excellent. Well, John, just thank you for coming on the show. Again, this is our fourth episode, and to make things more comfortable for us, it's been easier for me to call my friends that I already know for a couple of these. And hey, can you show up so we can have a convo as we kind of chill out?
Right. It makes sense. It makes sense.
But it's still, I'm very lucky to know a lot of great people like you who work in this industry, and hopefully we'll all get to continue to do this and continue this conversation. So, Ken, any closing thoughts?
No, it sounds like you're running a great show, John.
Thank you.
Wish I would have gone when we were in Ohio. Maybe I'll be able to get up there with Tom. and take a look. See.
Yeah, definitely. I hope you guys can come out some year when we're not at the end of the world. Trademark.
When we're allowed to get back onto planes, and trains, and automobiles, and then every time I come to Columbus, I always go to Germantown. And what's the name of that buffet we always go to?
We go to Schmidt's.
Schmidt's. Oh,
yes, for the Autobahn.
Yes.
And the cream buff.
and I just gained 5 pounds.
Exactly.
And every single time I've gone, I think it's been 5
Schmidt's
years of Origins.
And the Melt, we end up gaining about 30 pounds just looking at what's going on. So
do you go to Thurman's?
We went once.
I went to Thurman. Well, we hit every place that's appeared on Man vs. Food.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good.
We're those guys.
Yeah. Good.
People are like, well, how do you gain the weight doing conventions? You're always running around, Tom. I'm like, yeah, but if you do 8 cities a year, man, that's a lot of food. Because if I'm not, I'm doing it wrong if I'm not going somewhere. And Columbus is a great place to eat. But
what was the hot dog place we hit last time?
Oh.
Dirty Frank's?
Yes, Dirty Frank's.
Yep, we went to Dirty Frank's.
Yeah.
We can name like, what was this food? And
yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did something. So
what was the new
John,
pizza
it's great
joint?
having you on.
Thank you, guys.
Wait, what was the pizza? What was the brand new pizza joint that it just opened right across from the convention center?
Late Night Slice.
Yeah,
Late Night Slice. Yes, we went there too.
Late Slice. Yep.
Awesome, John. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on. Everybody who joined us for this show, thanks, and is watching afterwards. But it's great to have this conversation and keep this conversation going. Please check out Matsuricon.org online, and everybody pose and say goodbye so Danielle can go to credits. And see ya.